listening to I Am Refocused Radio with your host, Shamaya Reed. This show is designed to inspire you to live your purpose and regain your focus. And now, here's your host, Shamaya Reed.
Hey, welcome to I Am Refocused Radio. We are here once again today. And just like any other day, we have another amazing show for y'all. Today, we get to have a true honor talking to our guest, Justin Nelson. He is a 26-year-old man, super young real estate mogul, and he is the owner of Skyrocketed VA. It is a business that he grew to 8 figures in just not 1, not 2, 3 years. Man, that's still fast. First and foremost, man, Justin, thank you for your time. I know you're super busy as well. How you doing?
Absolutely doing great, man. I appreciate it, and I know we're both super slammed, so I appreciate you fitting me in.
Man, I mean, I don't know how you keep your head from not spinning. Kind of give us a little quick run through how you got inspired to launch your business.
Yeah, so kind of untypical story, but maybe typical. I don't have any like rags to riches story. Grew up in a middle class family. Parents were military, worked preschool teachers, just not really an entrepreneurial spirit. However, my dad got laid off when I was about 15 years old. He got into real estate because that's where a lot of obviously entrepreneurs sometimes start, just because of low barrier to entry cost wise. And so he got into real estate when I was 16. He's like, hey, help me out with social media, help me out with a lot of the business basics. So kind of got my start there. Went and played some college football for a year while still working in the business. And basically at 19, just decided like I want to work for myself. I want some of that freedom outside of a W-2 job. So got into real estate, did that from 19 to 23 years old, roughly. Had a lot of fast success, mostly attributed to just putting in long hours and kind of busting through time and effort and some things like that. And then from there, launched the virtual assistant company, which is what I do now. And kind of what you mentioned, we grew so fast in 3 years, and really just focus most of my time now on supplying people with talent from around the world. So it's a quick minute version of my story.
And when it comes to Skyrocketed VA, that's a website you can go to if you're listening, skyrocketed.com. Kind of tell us the main, mission point of your business and who you are helping to serve.
Yeah, absolutely. So our primary focus is on small businesses. It can be, when I say small businesses, it could be solo entrepreneur, running a snow shoveling business, to the plumber, electrician, all the way to, big corporations. Now, obviously COVID, one of the benefits, there wasn't very many of them, but one of the benefits of COVID was it kind of helped supercharge this interconnected world and made people realize like, I can have team members from across the world. I can have team members across the US or wherever someone may live, and they don't have to be in my office. And so a lot of entrepreneurs, when they're first getting started, they obviously might have limited funds to be able to have assistants or video editors or social media help, whatever they may need help with. And so obviously virtual assistants are usually sourced from other countries that have a little bit lower labor cost. So we particularly source from the Philippines. So we help people find virtual assistants with college degrees and things like that they can hire for $3, $4, $5, $6 an hour, which is a really good wage over there, but is obviously a little bit cheaper in our economy. So it kind of helps, the average business owner maybe get some help and support without having to pay, a $40,000, $50,000, $60,000 a year salary.
You also have a pretty cool YouTube channel that you kind of give audience a little bit, even more resources. Mm-hmm. Kind of tell us a little bit about your mind process of just kind of getting yourself out there everywhere.
Yeah. So, part of like our marketing is, I always tell people and this really goes for any product, but for us, it's all about, our product is obviously convincing people that they need help, right? When we look at it, just most businesses, any business that I want to be like, I always see that they just have more people than me. They have more leverage. They have more talent. And so, in order for me to convince people, especially small entrepreneurs that might have a tight budget, like to maybe give up some of that control, I have to really make them feel confident of how they can use that person. And so for me, it's putting out as much free content as possible of like just giving examples, right? Here's how I use my personal assistant. Here's how I use my marketing assistant. And the more real life examples I can give people, like you said, on the YouTube channel, other platforms, the more that it sparks people's ideas on how they could actually use an assistant from the Philippines to, help their business grow. Because if they don't see how it could help their business grow, then, in full transparency, they're probably never going to become a customer.
And speaking of that, what was some of the key indicators or milestones, if you will, that you see small business owners consider the signals to say, you know what, it's time to expand?
Yeah, that's a really good question. So, I always say this, like, it's more for me, I have a financial brain, and I know that every business needs help to scale, right? The math says that you have 40 hours a week to work, or you have 60 or 80 or whatever your situation is, whoever's listening, how many hours a week you have to work. And so if it's 60 and that's the max, well, next week you're not automatically or going to magically grow 120 hours a week to work. So I know that adding people in my organization will put more hours towards the common goal of our business, right? If it's a plumbing business and I have 3 assistants or I have 3 technicians, I know that I have more time. So to kind of come around way is like, people need help no matter where they're at. And so I look at it more from a financial standpoint of, I believe that every business should be spending at least 10% of their revenue on salaried help. And so, if someone's only making $100,000 a year, that would give about $10,000 a year for salaried help. And so I look more at that. Usually other key indicators are, when I hear burnout words of, I can't make my kids' soccer practice, or I'm missing this, or, I'm having to stay up late to write my social media post. And so I look for things like that where, I look for things where I was, many years ago, where I felt trapped until I was able to figure out I can hire other people to do this, and they can sometimes do it better than me.
And going back to your brand, when it comes to hiring virtual employees, what are some of the particular qualities or skills that you look for to help match those with your clients?
Yeah. So, obviously it's a wide range, right? Like if someone comes to me for an accounting VA versus a social media VA, like someone that's an accounting brain, I'm looking more at their, what we call hard skill sets of like, hey, can they do the math? Can they do the bookkeeping for my business? Where, if someone's coming to me for social media, right, I'm going to probably look a little bit more at their personality, a little bit more at their skill sets around design. Does it match my business, right? Type of situation. Because a VA that does social media, if they worked for an ice cream shop before, they may not be a great, designer for a real estate agent, for example. So just kind of depends on the position. But overall, I'm looking first and foremost for if they're a good culture fit within our organization, right? Good job history, good job tenure. But then I'm really, really focused on their skill set. I want someone that can come in and teach me a little bit about what to do, rather than me feel like I have to teach every position exactly what to do.
And with massive success that you have with your company, over 8 figures, what's some of the peaks and valleys that you had to go through to get to where you are today?
Yeah, I would say the biggest peak and valley, and it's kind of cliche because I'm obviously biased to my company, but the biggest peak and valley was just thinking I had to do everything alone. I was a real estate agent. I was trying to close $1 million a year in revenue by myself. And the peak was, I thought that put me at the top of the mountain. I thought I was, just better than other people in terms of not as a person, but better at business and things like that. But then I looked around and started to find people that, had a team of 5 people, and the owner still made $1 million in a year. And yet they didn't have to go and show the homes and do all the paperwork and do their own accounting. And so I'd say the biggest peak and valley was, the peak was like, man, I'm doing this all myself. Like I'm a badass. And then the valley was like, wait, I'm burned out. I became an alcoholic. I had all these, my family didn't like me anymore because I was working 80, 90 hours a week. And so, the peaks and valleys actually kind of, cliche type is like what my business actually tries and fix for people now, or tries to avoid if it hasn't happened to them yet.
When someone's listening to this, you're like, I need to hire them like yesterday. What is the official steps for that person to get connected with your team?
Yeah. So like you said earlier, skyrocketed.com is a great way to kind of start the process. But even before, coming to us, like it's honestly just trying to figure out what do you need someone for, right? If you just come to me and you're like, hey, I need a VA, like what do I need? A lot of the times I'm not going to be able to tell you what you need, right? And we can help you through that process, but just go to skyrocketed.com. We have a ton of like resources on there that you can download, guides, job descriptions, different things like that. So that would be the first step, is just kind of exploring our website and seeing, what positions may be able to help your business.
Your brand has been featured on many respectable platforms. As you see your brand continuing to grow, I mean, talking to other CEOs out there, what would you say to them? Everyone's story is different, but what would you say in general? How important is it to shape the image of your brand?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, for us, like the brand has been fairly easy, at least in our market, because our market of virtual assistants for a long time was very old school companies that existed for 10, 15 years. And so our brand, when we came into the market, we were very flashy with colors and very flashy with TikToks and Instagrams and being a little bit more controversial and showing people ways that they could use virtual assistants that people maybe had never used them for, right? Like I used to have a virtual assistant who would watch a camera that watched my fridge, and when the fridge would run out of something, they would order it. And so we would always, our brand was kind of geared towards like a new way of thinking, so when people think about Sphere Rocket VA and they know who we are, they're always thinking that we're using VAs in such a unique way compared to just, I can get a VA to do my paperwork. And ultimately, now we get requests from people to do all kinds of things. And so just now that people think because of our brand that we're a unique solution, it's really allowed us to, jump over a lot of the competition.
And being able to have the financial support that you have right now compared to when you first started, I mean, paint the picture for the audience. I can only imagine the responsibility hasn't really changed. It's just increased.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So, I mean, I think for me, as an owner, you think that once you start to make $100,000 a month, $300,000 a month, $500,000 a month, that life gets easier. And while the financial, it's really cool that, like, for example, today we need to do a rep site revamp. So, having more financials allows me to make, more decisions where I can go spend 20, 30 grand on something and then have a true expert do it. But at the same time, like you said, like, the pressure, right? I also employ now 100 people on my own personal team where, if we have a bad 6 months, like, the pressure's on me to not want to lay off people, to not want to go backwards. And luckily we've never had that, but you're right. The pressure it doesn't really go down. I might be doing less paperwork. I might be doing less things. I might be able to take, more weeks of vacation because I have leverage, but, the pressure, never goes away. And I think a lot of times people think it will go away, but it's kind of a fool's dream to think that the pressure one day will just disappear if you get big enough.
We're talking to our guest today, Justin Nelson. He's the CEO of Sphere Rocket VA. You go to skyrocketed.com. Let's talk about your clients, man. Let's brag on them. Mm-hmm. You have a ton of them, by the way. Was something that you found in common with the feedback that you get from your clients after a successful process with them?
Yeah, I mean, I would say the biggest feedback we get is I didn't know how affordable good help could be. And that's not like a brag on us. Like, that's just a general misconception in the VA world, right? A lot of times it was hard for me for many years to understand how could someone working at $3 an hour in another country actually be like a quality worker? Like, how can they actually have like good skill sets that would translate? And then I also had the opposite thought of like, is $3 an hour like a good living wage? Like, am I taking advantage of people? And so, a lot of times people won't jump into the VA world for two reasons. They're like, they're skeptical of the talent level, but then they're also like just a good human. And because in America, $3 an hour wouldn't fly, we think we might be, you're like, I might be taking advantage of someone. I don't know. And so it's like this limiting belief in our mind that we make up a decision just because we don't know, and so I say that a lot of our clients, once they get to witness like, oh, I have a VA at $3, $4, $5 an hour, and I'm watching my assistant, buy cars, buy houses, and like $3 an hour is way above minimum wage. And so I think for a lot of our clients, like the biggest thing they realize is like, wait, my limiting beliefs around something caused me to not do this sooner. And so I think that's just kind of a cool lesson in general in business, not just about using our services. It's like, there's a lot of things we might not do or we do based on a limiting belief we have that, might not be true.
And speaking of limiting beliefs, you've been able to hire many 2,000 plus virtual employees. When it comes to other CEOs out there who want to kind of pick your brain a little bit about management and hiring practices, what's some of the things that can take them beyond their limited thinking process?
Yeah. So the very first thing is, and this is kind of a unique exercise that I always take a lot of high level CEOs through, is I always say, like, you need to map out what positions you don't have in your company now that you need in your company. So, if someone needs like an accountant or a CFO, or they need, someone in social media, I usually have them map out like 5 different positions that they really, really need. Now, of course, I'm a little unique where I have a lot of these positions on my team, and then I'll have those 5 team members jump on with that CEO and allow that CEO to realize the quality of talent. Like a great example of this is I had a CEO the other day that's like, Justin, I just don't think I can find an executive admin because they don't have college degrees and they don't have this and they don't have that. And, these are all things that he had made up in his head. And so, I brought on my executive admin, who's 35 years old, has an MBA, from one of the most prestigious colleges in the Philippines and has perfect English. And so for a lot of us, it's just laying out what we want and then actually going to see if it's possible, so that's usually what I walk people through is like, and sometimes it's not, right? If you need an assistant to, walk your kids to school and walk them across the crosswalk to school, like, yeah, you're right. A virtual assistant can't do that. But, 90+% of things that people might not think is possible, there's usually a way to do it, with overseas talent.
When people open up their eyes and say, you know what, Skyrocketed VA is probably on my list to talk to next year. I mean, why should people start right now and say, you know what, we need to go make that next step versus we'll just kind of wing it?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think if someone's not ready, for a VA, they shouldn't start. But if someone's like, yeah, I really need to test this out. What's really cool is when we first got started with the company, we actually, we're like a lot of companies, right? When we first got started, we needed the revenue, we needed the capital. And so when a client came in, we'd make them sign a 12-month contract and things like that. But now, thankfully, and being blessed enough to have so many clients and so many VAs that anybody that needs a VA now is we have an 80-hour free trial. So they can come in, we'll give them a virtual assistant, and then for 80 hours, they're completely free. So the VA comes onto your team, they work for you for 2 weeks, if you need a social media person, an admin, and then after 2 weeks, you kind of get to, be like, oh, that was amazing. Or you can even maybe go like, it's just not really for me. Maybe I need someone in person. So I would say that's a big reason why our company, is a great benefit to those that might be on the fence of if it's right for them, because we give them 2 full weeks, 40 hours a week of work for 2 weeks free, where the person doesn't have any skin in the game in terms of financials, and they really get to see if it's right for them or not, which is a really, really unique thing compared to any other company.
And towards the last part of our segment, when it comes to your team, all this is great on paper, but man, you have a solid team. What are some of the things that you do to keep your team motivated and also believe in the vision?
Yeah. So in full transparency, one of the main goals of our company is we want to sell it one day, right? A lot of companies don't want to sell, but we want to sell the company one day. We want to, kind of be a startup story of how fast we grew and then we sold it. And so one of the big things that keeps our team motivated is just always talking about the future. Like it's always talking about if we win, how do they win, right? A lot of owners always talk about, if we make $1 million, if we make $5 million, if we make $100 million, but they never tell the employees like, what does the employees get? Like, if I want to sell Sphere Rocket for $100 million, like, I need to not only just say, let's get to 100 million, let's get to 100 million, let's sell this thing so I can go live on an island. I also need to remind my team members, like, what do they get when we get to 100 million? What do they get when we sell? And so I think one of the big things, and a lot of times business owners are scared to like get their people like motivated by money and things like that. But for me, I'm excited to show my people, a way to make more money in the way that of how they win when we get there. So I'd say that's the big thing, is we're one of the only companies I've ever found where everybody in the company is like excited to be jobless in the future, right? They're excited to maybe sell the company and, and to get a check for the company. And so I'd say that's a big way, is just kind of showing them as we grow, how they're going to grow. Companies that grow and then don't let their people grow, usually see a lot of turnover and, will plateau at some point.
Once again, listen to Refocus Radio, talking to Justin Nelson. He's the CEO of Sphere Rocket VA. You go to skyrocketed.com. I don't know how you even have time to do all you do. So when it comes to balancing your business life and also having time for yourself to enjoy life, what are some things that you try to implement in your schedule?
Yeah, I mean, the biggest thing I can implement in my schedule, and this makes all the difference in the world, is every morning, I will sit down with my head virtual assistant that works for me personally. She goes through everything I have in my schedule for the day. We try and confirm all the appointments to make sure everybody's going to show up. And then really, I try and give as many tasks on my brain to my assistant each and every morning. And some she'll be like, I can't do that one for you, or, you need to do that one. But I would say that's probably the biggest thing, is a lot of people have assistants, but they don't meet with them daily. Like, this one's key. Like, meet with your assistants every single day. I think that's really a game changer.
Someone listening to this right now, maybe they're a CEO, maybe they're an employee, whoever they are. Maybe they're like, man, Justin, you made this sound super easy. I mean, you were playing football and you started a business. So kind of tell us, moving to the next year of the new year in 2024, what's something that you kept with you on your journey in business world, in personal life, that's kept you motivated to keep showing up every day?
Yeah, I mean, I think for me, it's about the people at this point, right? Like if I wanted to, by no means am I just like change my, I'm not at the point yet where I can say I have $200 million and I don't ever have to work again. But what I can say is I can live very comfortably. And so my focus is really turned to, how do I make sure the people in my organization aren't just working at a job, but they're starting to make life-changing money, right? How many people can I help earn 6 figures a year in our company? How many people can I help buy their first, investment or buy their first home? How many of those can I help go on, 4 vacations a year because they actually have the funds to do it now? And so I'd say that's probably my biggest, thing, is like, it doesn't get old, whether I was making $1 or $1 million a year. Like, it doesn't really get old watching your team members get to go and do things that they never got to do before, because they were working for other companies that didn't value it or didn't grow fast enough to help them achieve those things. So I'd say that's the biggest thing I kept with me.
All right, man, you heard it from him. When it comes to the power of a virtual assistant from start to finish, you need to go to skyrocketed.com. Again, that's skyrocketed.com. We've been talking to the one and only, the CEO of that brand, Justin Nelson. I want to say thanks again for your time, man.
Absolutely. Thank you.